It's the Rangers Journal Night.
Hello Bears, Monday now, 15th. Russell Martin is still the Rangers manager, unfortunately. I know you'll get your heads in your hands when I say that. But we're here today, we're going to talk about it. We're going to go through a few things tonight, and I'm joined by a great panel, and we've actually got a debutant tonight. So, Scott, I'm going to come to you first of all, making your Rangers Journal debut. And I'm sure the guys will give you the usual welcome for that. Welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks very much for having me. Really excited to be here. Looking forward to get my points across.
Brilliant. Well, listen, I'm sure I'd rather be brought you in a better night, but feel free to express your concerns and everything you've got going on, mate. Andrew, you're a regular. How you getting on, pal?
Aye, I've been better, been worse. It's just another Rangers weekend at the minute, isn't it? I'm not doing too badly though, mate.
Good to hear. And Ross, you feeling well, mate?
I'm good. Yeah, personally, all good. I think the only sad thing is that this feeling's becoming quite familiar for us all, not just this year, but in recent history, I guess. So let's thrash it out tonight and hopefully leave feeling a bit calmer and a bit more relaxed.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that Doug said, made a wee mention there, Scott. He's saying you've got a great top. He's not been mentioning your beard. He might have a bit of beard jealousy on the go there. So...
Thanks, Doug. This was actually a 40th present for a good pal of mine. So it's signed by Brian Laudrup as well. So it's a special top for me.
Superb. Look after it, pal. Well, listen, we'll come to well, first of all, touch I'm going to come to you first of all, Andrew. We've actually got a wee bit of a slide here that Doug has kindly prepared, as he always does for us. This is from the game on Saturday here. So doesn't look for great reading. But Andrew, I was first of all going to talk to you about the stats. Is there anything that kind of glaringly obvious points out? The defence is taking a bit of a down. Anyone you particularly would like to talk about there?
Big chances. Look at that, big chances. None. How many? With 2 games in a row, we haven't scored a goal. How many goals have we scored this season? It's pathetic. We have 2 nailed-on wingers. You look at that. You look at the team there. Obviously, he's flipped the wingers over, which it's not something that it's things that managers do. It's to try and confuse the opposition, and it affects man marking and stuff. But it's not working. You could see it wasn't working. How can we have those 4 players there? You look at Miovski, Gassama, Asgard, Moa, and how can we not create a big chance? How? That just absolutely bewilders me. That'd be the big one for me. You're at Ibrox, you're at home against a side that will be fairly open, and something seriously wrong there.
Yeah, I think the openness is probably the biggest concern for me. He's played 2 strikers up front. He's played the boy Braga, who looks a good player, and he's obviously played Shankland, who we all know. And I don't remember a Derek McInnes team ever coming to Ibrox there. And Scott, I'll come to you on this. I think it was Mix that did these stats here. Correct me if I'm wrong, sorry. But I think that's quite harsh on Miovski because he's starved of service.
I couldn't agree with you more, to be honest with you. That was one of my biggest takeaways from Saturday, was the fact that we've got Bojan Miovski up front, who is proven in this league. He can do the business. And I don't know how we can have guys like Asgard, Gas, Mikey Moore, and we can't even find them. It does actually scare me a little bit. But I do think it's harsh on him, because he works hard. We know that he works hard. We've seen that against Celtic as well, that he's prepared to put the yards in and get to make these runs and try and make some space for himself. But it is a little bit harsh on him. But if he's not going to touch the ball, you can't really give him any more than a 3, can you, really? Let's be honest.
Yeah, well, I think he actually probably had a good hand in creating the best pass of the game. He dropped into midfield at one point, and he collected the ball, and he played a ball down the corner to Gassama, and it looked as if it really opened up the Hearts' defence. And Gassama, as he does, played a great cross in, and he's looking for Miovski, who is standing back where he played the ball from. So it just shows the emphasis of playing 2 up front. But I think that's, for me, I've just been informed it was Gary that did the stats this week, so I feel as if that's been a wee bit harsh on him. I feel as if Miovski actually was always making himself available, and maybe something that you had to be in the stadium to see, but I think that's a wee bit harsh. Ross, I'm going to ask you about Mikey Moore and how you feel his impact has been. He's obviously been rated at a 1 here. Don't think he can get any lower than that, being honest. But we were led to believe this boy was going to be a big talent. He was going to be the next big thing in English football. How would you rate his impact at Rangers so far? Do you think he's still to show?
I think it'd be doing him a disservice to I guess, hold him accountable for the woes of the team and the woes of the general feeling at Ibrox, if I'm being honest. I think he is symptomatic of a number of players that we've got in. And when I look at that team, I see Gassama, Moore, Asgard, Barron, Magoma, all as players who are good to have in around a well-oiled, experienced, leadership-filled team. Okay, they're players that you bring in to kind of work alongside and bring in to supplement a team, whether that's off the bench or whether that's starting. But I think trying to start all those players at once is genuinely chucking them into the lions then, because it's just never going to click immediately. You know, you need an established team of experienced, confident, leadership-filled players in order to then subsidize it with youth and with talent and with, you know, exciting players. But asking Mikey Moore to go in there and kind of have high chance creation, pairing up with players who he's never played with, you know, he won't have played this many games probably in a season to date so far. Maybe not at maybe at youth level, but not sort of at a higher standard. So I think it's really unfair to kind of point at him as the kind of key catalyst or key issue here. Again, I'll just go back to it. There's no backbone in this team. You know, we'll come on to the failings of Russell Martin, which I'm sure there are many for us to get through. But one of the big ones for me is that we haven't brought in experience. You know, being a Rangers player isn't just having quality or having the ability to skin a man, which clearly these guys are able to do. But it has something more. It has character. It has leadership. It has accountability. And asking a real young lad like that to come in and try and fulfill that role immediately, I think is just, you know, borderline suicidal from Martin, and maybe that turns out to be the case.
Ross, just staying with you, do you think Joe Rothwell, when you're speaking about experience, was he the guy that was signed as being the kind of linchpin, the experienced man in the midfield? Do you think that's where we could have seen him fitting in?
Yeah. Completely agree. But I would bring him in alongside someone like, you know, Nico Raskin, who, for whatever reason, that's not happening at the minute. But I think trying to rebuild a whole new front line, which essentially, you know, 5 of the 6 forward players there, all 4 of the furthest forward 4 are brand new players. You know, this is a really difficult task for any player to come in and you know, be a catalyst to a winning Rangers team. I agree with you that Rothwell was probably that man, but I think it's become very clear that all those down south that have been saying, you know, he's going to come in and boss it in Scotland probably don't have a clue about Scottish football, or probably have a snobbery about what's needed to be successful in this league. And unfortunately, Rothwell's just not at that level yet. I think there's still probably a player in there, but I just don't think putting him in an isolated kind of leadership position is ever going to come to provide, you know, the fruits of the labour that he'll be trying to put in. It's just a really mismatched team of reliance on youth, reliance on inexperience, and even the players that are experienced in there, Diamande and Barron, probably aren't at the level we need if we're being really brutal about it. So it just feels like the recruitment has, you know, well, it's just got a lot to be desired, in my opinion.
Yep. Andrew Ross has mentioned Diamande there, and it was actually something that I wanted to kind of highlight. For me, Diamande's culpable for probably the 2 goals. If you actually look at the replay, if you can bring yourself to do it, if you look at the replay for Shankland's first goal, Diamande's actually followed Shankland right up to the edge of the 18-yard box and just clearly just let him go. And I don't know if he's given Jigger the passing on shout. For me, he should be following Shankland, but he's just easily just walked. He's almost walked away from him. He strolled away from him to set up the first. And then the second goal, the one with the penalty, forgive me, I can't remember the boy that was fouled. I think it was Millen was the boy that was fouled for the penalty. He's went past. He's went past. I think it was Tavernier. He stood up by Souttar. Souttar's basically got him 1-on-1. He's got a good angle on him. There's no real. And Diamande just seems to come out of nowhere, and just he comes off of his man who he's marking just to trip him up. Just a right lazy, horrible leg just got in, and it was clearly going to be a penalty. And I think giving Diamande a 4 here, and you're giving the likes of Majowski, Moore, you've got Jiggy, you've got Tavernier there. Diamande's a 1 as well. Diamande's given away, had a right big catalyst to giving away these 2 goals on Saturday. And again, it's something that we're raising issues about his performance. So just, do you agree with what I'm saying, or do you think he was better than that?
No, the thing is, this is something we're noticing with most players under Russell Martin. They seem to have the life strangled out of them a little bit. At first, it was the kind of setup that Russell went with originally, which he seems to have abandoned a bit now. He's kind of doing things differently now, hoping something will work. But all the kind of players in that team, even Raskin when he was playing, even though he's one of our best players, hasn't been fully there this season. I don't know if it's a physical visual of how the players are mentally at the minute with this whole change. There's something clearly not right. Diamande extremely poor, and I'm not saying it's a laziness, but there is just something clearly just not right. We're not fighting like a Rangers team. We're not chasing that ball down. Do you want to see somebody, if they lose a ball, going back and chasing that ball down and winning it back? We saw some sparks in that first game against Motherwell, and then it's just all completely dropped off. And it's not just Diamande himself. You look midweek there. We had, for once, loads of Rangers players out on international duty and all doing fairly well. How can he do it there at a higher stage, a higher level, and not be able to do this in the SPFL at Ibrox? It's because Russell Martin, that's the reason why.
Yep. Gary, thanks for joining us, mate.
No worries, mate. How you doing?
Absolutely perfect timing there. We're just running over the players and what we thought. I don't know if you were listening in here, and I was just about to come on to referees. So thanks for joining us at the perfect moment here.
No problem.
And I think the disappointment of the result and the performance and all the trouble that's going on just now, it's probably hidden the fact that there was two absolutely deplorable referee decisions on Saturday against us. One to award the goal in the first place when Shankland's clearly controlled the ball with his hand when the balls came to him from quite a distance. So it's not as if it's jumped up there. And obviously the second one against the goalkeeper, the Hearts goalkeeper, whose name I would struggle to pronounce. What's your interpretation? Obviously, you know refereeing inside out. What would your interpretation be of the Shankland incident versus the likes of the penalty incident at Rugby Park yesterday?
I have to admit, I've not really seen too much of the Rugby Park incident. I've seen like one little clip on Twitter, but it did look like it was a deflection and his arm was in a position to block the ball on the way to goal. So I would say the deflection would be a suitable mitigation for that one, just on what I've seen. I don't know if any of you guys caught the recent VAR show that's Gordon Duncan and Wally Collum. So the first clip they showed was from a Livingston and St Mirren game, I want to say. And it actually involved a deflection onto a player's arm, blocking the ball going to goal. And the decision was that it shouldn't have been a mitigation in that example, but it's a wildly different context. So you don't know if that video clip has been in the referee's mind, given it was only released at the end of last week. And they're now thinking that deflections aren't a mitigation, and that's why that's been given the go-ahead. I don't know, but in my opinion, it shouldn't have been. And I think on Sky Sports Ref Watch, they also said similar. The deflection was a mitigation. On Lawrence Shankland, I can't quite work out why it wasn't given. I think even Shankland's come out since and said that he was expecting it to be chopped because he handballed it. The only thing I can think of is sort of two reasons why they've not given it. It would be they think it's not the same attacking phase of play, which I couldn't quite work out, because for an attacking phase of play to finish, it has to be a change of possession or some kind of defensive touch on it, and the momentum of the move has to have finished essentially. That didn't happen. The ball was quickly played up to Braga, who was one-on-one with Suter, who then waited on the Shankland run, and then he finished for the goal, obviously. So the attacking phase of play is still the same phase, in my opinion, and I don't think there's anything obvious that would say it isn't. Also, the only other thing I can think of is they're not sure it's definitely hit his arm where it's hit it, if it's hit it higher up in the sleeve. But again, I think this isn't just a Scottish thing. I've noticed this in England as well, where unless there's 100% objective proof that something's happened, they're quite against calling anything. So the subjectivity of it, i.e. you don't have 100% proof, but you can see 99.9% chance that it's hit the lower part of his arm at the elbow. So again, I think it's a mindset thing that's caused that to be, unless we have 100% concrete proof, we're not overruling it.
Yeah, it feels for me as if there's any element of doubt, even as little as 5%, they just let it go. We'll let the play go through. If something happens, we'll let the VAR sort it out. And it's almost as if VAR are making the big calls and the referees on the park are really just there to pick up shies, pick up corner decisions and stuff like that. The occasional yellow cards, dissent and stuff. But the actual big decisions, your offsides, your serious foul plays, your handballs, it seems as if it's the VAR that's actually making the decision. And I don't believe that's fit for purpose. I don't believe the technology is good enough. I don't believe that the personnel involved are qualified enough or experienced enough to make these decisions. And I think the onus has to get put back on the referee. Scott, I'll come back to you, mate. Sorry about skipping you over there. Just an opportunity to ask Gary there with the kind of big question there. There was a second instant where the goalkeeper was deemed to be fouled. What was your kind of thoughts on that? What was your interpretation of that one?
I've said for a long time that I think goalkeepers are far too protected, to be honest with you. I mean, Asgard wasn't... I mean, obviously there was contact there, but I mean, it went down as if he'd just been shot. I don't think it was a foul, if I'm brutally honest with you. The fact that it wasn't really looked at for that amount of time either, it just kind of passed over and it was sort of, right, okay, no goal, we'll move on. It bothers me a little bit. It come back to the sort of Shankland handball as well. The fact that it was looked at for seconds and then just dismissed is a bit confusing, to be honest with you. But I thought the goal should have stood with Asgard. If the goalkeeper's allowed to challenge for the ball when the ball's in the air, then the attacker is also allowed to look to challenge for that ball as well. Fair enough, like I say, there was contact, but I don't think it was sufficient enough to take the goalkeeper down in the way that he did. But that's just my opinion.
On its value, I think 99.99% of the Rangers fans would agree with you, mate. And I think even neutrals would as well. To be honest, the goalkeeper didn't look to be challenged too heavily. Ross, I'm going to ask you something here, something that I've kind of picked up on is body language within the team. And even in the sidelines, when the Hearts goal was ruled to stand, the first one from Shankland, Russell Martin was standing with his hands in his pocket at the time. And he is kind of having a wee go with the assistant of the fourth official. He's got his hands in his pocket when he's doing it. Body language seems to be a big thing for me that's coming there. And even when the Hearts penalty, Butland's obviously had a great save. Unfortunately, the rebound goes in. But nobody's running in. Everyone's standing on the 18-yard line and nobody's making an attempt. And it's almost as if they believe that the ball's in the back of the net before it even is. Are you seeing the same things that I'm seeing as far as body language is concerned?
I think there's multiple reasons why, but in essence, yeah, I think it's a real fair call out. I was actually at a wedding during the match, so I've just kind of caught up on the highlights and the extended highlights post game. One of the things I noticed was when Diamande had given away the penalty, he was just kind of fine, flippant. He just sort of turned and walked to one side, no complaining, no gestation, no anger. Also, no players going and putting their arms around his back and saying, "Come on, there's the rest of the game here to be played. Head up. We've got Jack Butland in the goal. He can save this and we can, get those 3 points like Rangers of old." I think there's a few things in there. One is apathy against the current situation. So it's an all too. I said at the start of the show, it's an all too familiar feeling. This, and some of these players will have been here. And you look at those, and this is not a, I'm not trying to call out James Tavernier and John Suter as people to blame necessarily for the result, but they're used to this. They're used to losing at home at Ibrox. They're used to coming second. They're used to the season being over by Christmas. This is in their, I'd hate to say it, but it's in their muscle memory. This is just what they're used to. So there's that element of it. There's also the hostile environment of the pitch and the fan base, which clearly is as a result of the tactics and the style of play, if you want to try and call it that Martin is insisting on trying to cement in. And then I guess you've got the overall complexion, which is we're miles behind Celtic already, and there's a long season ahead of us. And they're probably playing alongside these players thinking, Mikey Moore's a kid. We need Seamer. We need Cherney. We need someone that's going to actually be able to contribute. I'm not saying Mikey Moore's not a good player, but I mean someone that's done the job and you can get in through the door. Why is Lawrence Shanklin wearing purple and not blue? These questions are probably going through some of the players' minds on that pitch. And definitely it's going through the minds of us on the sidelines watching. Russell Martin is never going to resign from this job. So it's going to have to be forced out. And I think, I'm not trying to call for some sort of protest here, but I mean, the paying customers are the ones that are missing out here. Us, the fans, the people that care the most about the club, are the people that are being affected the most by this. Not Russell Martin stood on the sideline being paid astronomical amounts of money to pick the same team every week and just try and, take them to Loch Lomond for a swim. It's just beyond a joke now. I genuinely think it's beyond a joke. And if these owners really want to come in and win over the Rangers fans, they need to get someone in who understands what it is to be a winner, understands that change, that leadership, and all of those amazing qualities that has been in the Rangers DNA of winning and trying to always fight till the day is done, quite literally in our DNA and our songs. That's who you need in the door, not someone that's trying to, Rangers has never been a football club, a test bed for a philosophy on football. It never has been. It's been a test bed for bringing youth through, but winning and winning and winning. That is what Rangers has been about. And I just think that the players know it, the fans know it, and I think Martin knows it. And I think that's probably the key explanation for the body language.
Definitely. Andrew, I'll come to you next, mate. And it's actually come in the comments as well what I was going to ask Jamie, so I'll give some credit here for Gorilla Tag 25. Why hasn't he been sacked? What reason must the board have? There must be a reason. What is the reason? What possibly could be the reason that he's still in position?
That is the $66 million question at the minute, especially today when you've seen a couple of clubs. You've seen the Mönchengladbach manager be sacked after 3 league games out in Germany because they're not good enough. There was another club earlier today. That was it, Leverkusen as well, because the results aren't good enough. We have had the worst start since 1978, and that includes the banter years. Come on. This definitely isn't working. Now, this could be one or two things. Obviously, we know that this isn't Thirlwell's decision and this isn't Stuart's decision. This will be from above. Andrew Kavanagh, I believe, is in the country this week. We were always told we'll never see or hear from Andrew Kavanagh unless things are bad. However, I do believe he's only over for planned meetings. So I imagine something will take place, whether it's a review or whatever. But I just don't think they're very knee-jerk. I know it's not exactly the same setup as down at Leeds, but obviously there was a lot of decisions there at Leeds that the fans were against, and they still went with certain things, and obviously it paid off for them in the end, but this is a very different kettle of fish here. The worrying thing is, even looking at that press conference, that post-match presser where he looked like he was done, if you look at that Swansea press conference that he'd done, he was 5 degrees dunner there. So I think he's still got a few levels to go. He's running out of ideas. You can see it. You can see with what he was doing on the pitch. And surely the people from above see this. The fantastic interview before the season started with Scotty and Matt Mayoko, how he would say Parag Marathi would watch Leeds on the telly. He's passionate like that. He would tune in at 2:00 in the morning. They are seeing this. They are seeing what's going on. This isn't good enough, and they are hearing it. They just have to look at social media and see how toxic it is. You don't just need to look at the stands at Ibrox. Why hasn't he been sacked? I don't know. Maybe they're looking at a succession plan first. Maybe they're looking at what the next step is before they sack. I don't know. His days are numbered. He won't resign. No manager ever resigns. They want their severance package. But it is the $66 million question at the minute. Why is he still here? It's possible. I'm not saying this is what's happening. This is just my opinion. Maybe they are looking at a succession package of who they could bring in and what they could do, because allegedly Russell Martin's not on pennies here. He's allegedly extremely highly paid, which is something that we haven't had for a long time. And obviously there is the financial stuff, of course, as well, that we have to look at and how that can affect us. So maybe they're looking at a few options first. But yeah, I don't like hating on a Rangers manager. I don't like doing this, frankly, but it's not working and it's getting worse. We actually aren't even thinking about second place at the minute. We're thinking of surviving. Luckily, Aberdeen are holding the league up.
Yep. Ross, you want to come in there, mate?
I was going to ask you something, Ryan.
Okay.
A lot of the things that we're seeing online, and this is not any insider information, this is purely just speculation and fan chat. is that Thelwell and Purdy are deeply rooted and invested in Martin's project as head coach. Where's your head at with Thelwell and Purdy and Martin? Do you think if Martin goes, they go too? Do you think they fall on their sword as well? Or do you think it is a case of as and when Martin goes, they'll be working in the background to bring someone else in? And I guess the second part of that question is, do you therefore think we will look for someone again who will be trying to play this style of progressive, Timu Pep style football?
Yep. I think they'll be worried about sacking him because it puts in question their position and their credibility and what they're actually doing. They've obviously put him in position. So if they sack him after they're basically making a massive mistake and they're obviously wasting a large amount of money, and they're worried probably they're going to create a domino effect. My worry would be if they do sack him, if they do seek permission, they do make a mistake and the mistake's forgiven, that they'll then go out to hire another one of their pals, because they've obviously got quite something about signing players that they know, hiring people that they know, and they're obviously not up to standard. So my worry would be we'd go for somebody like Dice, who I don't think would be a great appointment for us. And also I think they're not likely to go out and sign somebody who will give them any trouble. They're not likely to go out and sign somebody that is going to be, like a Mourinho, for example, whose name has just come up in the comments there, because Mourinho's going to have certain demands and he's going to have a certain character, and I don't think they could handle him. So I think they're all basically clutching on by their fingernails, and I think Patrick Stewart potentially could be involved in that as well, that it could be something that you could see, it could just flatten the whole place. And we're going to have to use that word again, rebuild, and it's awful to think about it because we actually spoke about rebuild earlier in the year. But I think if one goes, I think they're all probably going to go. Gary, I was going to come to you, mate. Have you got any? Andrew's obviously struggling for reasons, and I think probably all are. Have you got any reasons why he's still in position as well?
Obviously, I've been part of the SFA. It's difficult to comment directly on like a club, but I think it's probably if you're the new owners come in, you've looked at recent history. So there's been a lot of manager turnover at Rangers. Some may say hastily, some deserved, just depending. You look at back as Van Bronckhorst and then potentially Clement as well. So they've probably come in with the mindset, in my opinion, that we're going to stick with a guy and see it through. And they're probably stuck between a rock and a hard place between that and falling into the sunk cost fallacy, where they've invested a lot of money and they've put their faith in this guy, and now it's not working, but we'll see it through because we've put so much in at the start. Whereas sometimes it's better to have a clean break. I think they're probably stuck between a rock and a hard place with that one, and they don't quite know which way to go because they don't want to fall into the trap of sacking a manager every so often the way we were doing in recent years. But it's looking difficult for him to maintain his position. That's as far as I would say with that, without exposing myself too much.
No, I understand. They would put you in a position. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, you're fine.
There, Scott, I ask you, but probably the only reason I can think of is the financial implications of sacking him. Do you think that might be something that's there that they're possibly looking to think, right, we don't want the financial outlay? Because it's not just the manager, it's his backroom team as well, potentially. Do you think that's the only reason?
I think there has to be an element of that to it, to be honest with you. But the way that I was thinking is what you basically touched on a couple of minutes ago. I think that because he's only been in charge for, maybe 12, 13 weeks, it's going to be an implication on the board that they've actually made a mistake. It's been highly publicised. He's had 7 interviews to get this position. Obviously, there was all rumours with Davide Ancelotti and everything like that, which kind of just fell to the wayside. But he's only been in a position for a very short period of time, and I don't know whether the board are going to accept the fact that they've maybe made a mistake and actually employing him in the first place when there was such a great fanfare about him not coming in, because it was such a disappointing appointment, to be honest with you. We had this big rebuild. It was on the cards. We obviously had the financial backing of the Americans coming in, and to give the job to Russell Martin, who, in my opinion, didn't deserve it, it's not really worked out at all. And I don't think the board are going to prepare to actually accept the fact that they're at fault for this one.
Yep. Well, so I'm going to give you some numbers here, mate, on the financial side of it now. We're obviously, I think we've been under the impression that European take-up hasn't been great with the CC. A lot of people have told me they've cancelled their continuous credit scheme where you're basically not giving Rangers access to their debit or their credit card anymore. So the European packages are probably worth about £10 million to Rangers just in gate receipts alone. And if we only sell 60-70% of that, there's £4 or £5 million straight away. Qualifying from the next round of the Europa League is probably worth about another £2.5 million in gate receipts alone, never mind prize money, TV money. Failing to meet a Hampden semi-final, obviously we get Hibs in the quarters this weekend, is worth about £750,000 to the club. And getting to a final in Hampden is actually worth over £1 million in gate receipts alone. So you're actually looking here, the financial side of it probably actually, you can't really argue with that to say, look, we're not sacking because of the financial implications of it, that the financial implications, if you actually don't sack him, are probably worse than actually sacking him in the first place.
And take a step back and look at Champions League. I mean, that would usurp any of those values in terms of the revenue that would pull in. That's way more. I completely hear you on it. I completely hear you on it. It's I think what's happening is we're noticing that there is a surgical detachment of the owners and the noise, which I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, and they're making decisions based on the advice, the experience of their own careers. They will definitely have advisors and people close to the game to try and provide insight and information and data analysis, which we know is a critical part of the way they do they go about their business. But the for us that is feeling this week in, week out, we are the ones that will be acting with with the withdrawal of our cash, the withdrawal of our wallets, the withdrawal of our feet into the stadium, and what kind of a message does that send out to the players and to the management of Rangers Football Club when we won't even turn up to watch it because we're that disassociated from what we're seeing on the pitch. And I think that the lack of connection between the fans and what we're seeing is surely obvious to anyone, even if they're not a football in and around football 24/7, as the owners clearly aren't. There's a huge disparity in between the expectations of what we want for our football club and what we're seeing. Now, can he bring that back? Can he broach it? I think if we were to say under any normal circumstances and it was a manager that came in and certain things weren't happening and we were creating loads of chances and decisions weren't going our way and we were scoring goals but conceding goals and injuries played a part and all these factors that can affect a manager's success level, I think there would probably be a bit more grace to understand that the players are still behind the project. They really believe that what they're doing is the right thing. The fans are seeing shoots of quality and real performances that are setting the team alight, but it's just not that final bit. I all think we would be sat here going, let's just take a step back. This is a new team. This is a new rebuild. This will take time, and it's not new ownership will take years to bed in. But it's just such a different complexion to what we're seeing on the pitch, which is quite frankly madness. What is the definition of insanity? It's repeating the same thing again and again and expecting a different outcome. And that's what we're seeing. And that's the frustration for all of us who are paying our money to go and see them. So it's one thing, taking the higher, longer term business approach, but there's a whole other thing being a football team that wants to be competitive, to win the majority of your games and be successful in reaching your targets of a successful European campaign, winning the league, winning the cups, and bringing youth through that you can sell on and make a sustainable football team for a profit point of view. None of that, nothing of those targets that I've just mentioned seems realistic this year. Nothing. So if you want to strip it back to business basics and KPIs and financial delivery and things like that, we are miles away from hitting any of those. So I hope in some way that's the level that they will realize that this is not the right appointment, because clearly we're feeling it emotionally, but even from a tangible objectives point of view, it's miles off it. It is miles away from where it needs to be.
Yep. Gary, listen, thanks for popping on, mate. Gary's got to head off, guys, but thanks for popping on and giving your expert referee analysis as always, mate.
No worries, guys. Cheers, all the best. See you soon.
Okay. See you again, mate. Thanks very much.
Bye.
Andrew Ross is talking there about KPIs. key performance indicators, things that you have to do, that you have to meet. Your targets effectively is maybe an easier way to describe it. Give me 3 things that Russell Martin had to get right when he was announced as the Rangers manager. What were the 3 things that he had to nail down early doors? Because by his own admission, he wasn't welcomed. A lot of people didn't want him. What were the 3 things he had to do straight away to convince us that he was the guy for the job?
Trust, I think, with the players, trust with the fans. The second thing I would say is tactically, as in tactics. I think he needed to nail down something simple. We've seen a lot of this philosophy football at the minute. Obviously, it's very publicised in the EPL at the minute with Amorim and Manchester United about how it doesn't work, and there's a lot of teams that are undoing it very simply. So I would say getting the team to trust the manager and the trust in what he's doing. The last manager we probably had that was probably capable of that was probably Gio. You know, players looked up and respected him. Same with Steven Gerrard. I just don't think these players have that level of trust. And I think some of it does come down to, you know, you look at Russell Martin's career. I know that's a bit different, but, you know, there are footballers that won't necessarily look up to somebody like Russell Martin. You know, they've seen his press conferences from before where he talks. He's always blamed the players. This is something that we've seen, you know, for years. He talks about the players have got anxiety. They're not following what we're doing. They're not doing what they're doing in training. Constantly throwing players under the bus isn't going to help them. Even if some of it is true, you have to be tactful. So, yeah, I would say trust is the main one. Second one is, of course, tactics. Get the players to understand something simple. We play in Scotland. We don't play in some league where, you know, we are potentially going to be relegation fodder. Well, even though we're in that kind of situation right now, you know, you need to just introduce a simple style of football that's attacking. You know, you look at Ange Postecoglou, not to bring him into this conversation, but it was quite simple. Yes, it had its frailties and they were quite obvious, but it worked, and it worked in Scotland. Keep it simple. The third one, it's getting, I think, the fan base on board as well. It's getting the fans to know that, look, we are going to do something here. We are going to challenge and back up what you're saying. We've seen all the kind of cutaways about, oh yeah, we are looking good this week. We're looking great. Fans don't trust them now because they're hearing the same things every week about training. We're hearing the same things. What they're doing at training is different to what they're doing here. I think the trust has been severely damaged between not just the players, but the fan base, especially with the Nico Raskin stuff. I think that could have been dealt with much better. There are instances and incidents that do happen within teams at times. There might be players that, I'm not saying this is what it is, but some players do overstep their mark, and it's dealt with internally. The player's missing this weekend. He's got a slight strain. He'll be all right. He'll be all right for next week. This turned into a circus, and it turned into a mess. And it's not something you want to see from your best player, even if you are looking to lay down who's boss, if that is the situation. With the players, you can do that internally, not kind of make it into this kind of mess. You saw that media circus, even though he said, oh yeah, we're fine, we're all sorted, we're fine, but then he's not in the team at the weekend, so, well, it clearly isn't fine. But sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here, but it's... Trust with the players is the main one. You have to have trust with the players, the playing squad. They have to believe you and believe what you're saying. They will do what you're saying if they believe it. These players don't believe in this. They don't believe in this system. They don't believe in it. You're seeing too many good players, too many decent players that have played fairly okay for us in the past, now playing badly. You're seeing players that are coming in that have got good pedigree, that can play well at international level, playing badly now. Yes, some of it could be put on some of the players, but this all boils down to the manager. When you've got a manager there that says, once them players are out on the park, I can't do anything, you're not a manager. Sorry.
Yep. Scott, add one more onto that, please, mate.
The biggest thing for me, outside of what Andrew said, is probably recruitment, to be honest with you. Obviously, with the amount of sort of dead wood that we had last season, after the misery that was last season, he had to oversee an awful lot of incomings and outgoings. He's been back financially. He had to get the recruitment bang on. weirdly enough, even though the players aren't playing, I don't think it's that bad, to be honest with you. The likes of Tello Asgard coming in, I'm still excited about. I still think he'll be a really exciting player for Rangers. There is some players that have come in that I've not been that thrilled about. I was happy with Joe Rothwell coming in. The biggest concern that I've got at the moment about his recruitment would be the amount of loan players that we've brought in. We've got a back line there that is made up 90% of loan players. I'm a big believer in having a spine of a team and being able to build success from a strong spine of a team. And we don't have that when there's a possibility that Aarons, Cornelius, Giga, Suter, Magoma aren't going to be there next season. Where does that leave us? It leaves us with James Tavernier. That's it. I think that you needed to get the recruitment bang on. Some of it's okay, some of it's not, but that was the thing that kind of put me in the back foot with Russell Martin kind of straight away. The fact that it was a sort of an unexciting, uninspirational recruitment by the board to appoint Russell Martin. He's never really had the opportunity to work with a lot of money before. He's only really worked in England, and my biggest concern was the fact that he would go down south and start looking at players again, which is exactly what he's done. And let's be brutally frank, the way that Russell Martin wants to play, I don't know what the way he wants to play right enough. I can't quite work it out, but it's not worked as yet. And that was the biggest thing for me, was this complete overhaul of the first team squad.
Yeah, definitely. Ross, it's unanimous and it's obvious, and it's just a matter of time that this is going to happen here. Andrew mentioned earlier on that he thinks that possibly he could still be in situ at this moment in time because we're building a plan to basically replace him immediately as it comes. Now, we've usually, when we've lost a manager, we've actually appointed an interim manager. Do you think that's the route we're going to go down here, or do you think we should be looking to go permanent?
I'd be very surprised if Andrew Kavanagh and Parag Marathe aren't already on a shortlist. I genuinely believe they will be. These are experienced businessmen, and if they are worth their corn, as we believe they are, and they're credible and they're very diligent in the way they go about their business, I'd be very surprised if they haven't got a shortlist. The question that I asked you earlier is the one that's really worrying me, which is more about what's next. Are we going to try the same project manager that has a philosophy and a stubbornness, a Ten Hag, an Amorim, a Martin, I guess you could say, in that ilk as well? I'm just concerned that we'll be replacing the mediocrity that we have now with someone that's unproven and of a similar ilk, if Thelwell and Purdy are the key ones that are making those changes. I genuinely am concerned about that, because I don't think I think they want to try and make a, happy, warm, welcoming, loving community environment in the club, which is fine, but that only comes to fruition when you've got a winning team on the park. And just the points that Andrew and Scott made were brilliant. But so the most consistent thing I saw on the chat, and thank you everyone for putting those comments and thoughts in there, was win games. Show that you've got the tactical and pragmatic approach that a Rangers manager needs, which is to win games. We've even seen examples where in-game tactics have just remained the same, and they've changed the personnel, and he's brought players on that we are booing and cannot see what he seems to be seeing. And my worry is that we bring someone else in like that. So for me, it has to be a completely different approach. You need to have a big personality. We talk about the successful managers that you've had at Ibrox: aura, presence, legendary status. And that is earned through victory and through winning and through trust with the team and with the players. Some of the great comments that Andrew and Scott were saying are very true in this. This is a big, big job, a bigger job than most managers will ever have in their career. And I think Martin knows that now. And I think Thelwell is probably starting to come to understanding of that. And I just really hope that's being cascaded back up to the very top in terms of ownership, that this is not a project. This is a lifestyle. This is in your blood. This is you have to be that winning mentality and that grinding out in the 93rd minute, as we so often see across the other side of the city. You know, that has lost, that's been eroded through mediocrity, through poor recruitment, through poor choices at every level of the club. And we need stability, but we need a winning mindset. And I don't care if we change managers every 6 months on the quest and the desire to find that. Because what's the alternative? That we just settle for mediocrity and we build a team that maybe challenges in 3 years' time? It's just not going to happen. You do not settle for second best here. You do not settle for that. You have to win. You have to win. So yeah, I think we've all had a little ramble at some point tonight. So maybe that was my little rant. But hopefully at home you can sense that we're all passionate and we care deeply about it. If you're enjoying this, please do hit the like button. It goes a long way for us.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just going to come to you, mate, on this. I got it off all of my chest yesterday, so I'm going to come to you, mate. Right? There's the topic of the pod tonight. We were actually going to talk about possible interim managers. So, although I don't personally believe that's the route we should go down, I do believe we should be looking for a permanent position straight away. But we have to prepare ourselves that they might, obviously us being thorough in the journal when we do what we do. Give me an interim manager's name. Obviously, make your point you're going to make first of all, mate, but I'd ask you for interim manager's name as well, please.
I was just going to say, and this is something that's been in my mind over the past week or so, and I try and take a step back and look at things, from a non-blue tinted spec point of view. What was it they saw in Russell Martin? What was it that jumped out through the clubs that he's been at, with his win percentages, with his tactical system of play? Because most Rangers fans straight away went, he kind of plays that high risk, high reward possession ball. Well, that's not going to work here. And then they had to do that interview to say, oh no, it's not all going to be that. There's going to be about, fluidity and tactical changes and stuff. What is it they saw? Now, don't get me wrong, he's had 7 interviews, which is a bit of a worry. In one respect, it depends how you look at it. You could look at it as he's had 7 interviews, that's a worry because they couldn't make their mind up. Or you could look at it and go, he had 7 interviews because they wanted to take their time and ensure they were getting the right man. It's a bit of a weird one for me. Like, Ryan, what do you see? Like, I honestly... I'm struggling. There must be something in their data analysis and the way that they recruit, in that kind of way that they've adapted from the NFL of looking at things, that, almost Moneyball system. What is it do you think they've seen?
I don't believe he was ever the number one candidate. I think they panicked. I think they were all in Gerrard or Ancelotti, and I think they were dwelling on it because they couldn't make their mind up, because I actually believe they had 2 decent candidates in Gerrard and Ancelotti. And for whatever reason, however it happened, they've made an arse of it twice with both of them. And they panicked, and they've just looked to see who's still got an application in, who's still available, who can we get here quickly. Russell Martin was still there. Doesn't need to get work permit organised, doesn't need to do much. It's an easy recruitment to get him in. He's a guy, he's never going to say no to the Rangers job. It's one of the biggest jobs in British football. But I don't think they truly saw anything that they liked to it. I think they've just completely made an arse of it. I think they've just panicked and got him.
Yeah, no, it's just something that I think we'll be asking to the end of time, because I'd love to have been a fly on the wall for that interview.
Yep.
But
have you got a name for me for an interim guy?
Oh, see, that is quite a difficult one, because I think they'll still look down south. I think they'll still look at the Premier League. Sean Dyche obviously is a name that keeps coming up. Again, I don't think he'd be very suited. Dare I say the word Gary O'Neill? Is that somebody that they might look at? I don't know. There was a good one in the comments earlier, David Martindale, but is that a long-term one? I don't know. I think he's very good at organising a team together. He might be a good interim, but I don't think he would just come for an interim job unless we keep him on the coaching staff. It's a difficult one at the minute, and I just don't know right now. We're at the start of the season. It's probably going to have to be somebody at a club, and they'll have to pay the compensation. But yeah, Gary O'Neill was the kind of name that came in my head there. I don't think that'd be a popular one either.
Even for an interim basis, do you not think he'd be looking for something full time?
Yeah. I think full time. I think if it's an interim basis, would you see Barry back in that seat in an interim basis? Would that happen again? It's possible, but I don't think he would do it. I just think the relationship there is soured a little bit again. I think.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Scott, I'm going to go through a few names that you hear, mate, and feel free to add or criticise them. These are just as I'm publicly pointing out, I don't believe that an interim manager is the right way to go, but I'm looking for somebody like Neil Warnock. I'm looking at Sam Allardyce, but obviously possibly recruiting in-house Ferguson, Thompson, Stephen Davis.
See, to be honest, I'm much like yourself, Ryan. I want to avoid the interim manager as much as possible. I'm not really. I mean, the season's in its infancy. I think we need to avoid the interim as much as we can, because it could drag on for a long period of time until they negotiate to find somebody that is more suitable for them. But it might be quite unpopular, but I would like Sean Dyche, if I'm honest with you. The likes of Warnock, Allardyce, these guys maybe 15, 20 years ago, maybe, but not any longer. These guys are the kind of people that save you for relegation. Now, let's not even get into that situation just now. We're too early in the season to have a look at that kind of thing. But we need somebody that's going to come in that's going to make us difficult to beat, because we've shown nothing at the moment to prove that we're actually going to be any kind of contest for anyone. The likes of Hibs coming in Saturday is going to be licking their lips at the prospect of getting us just now. We need somebody that's going to come in and actually shore everything up at the back, make us really difficult to break down, and actually put a little bit of oomph back into the team again. Give us a bit of emphasis. Tell us what we're doing. Show the players what they're doing. Give them their instructions clear and concise, and we can move on from there. But I want to stay away from the interim side of things. But the next appointment that we make is absolutely pivotal. It's so important. I mean, I said this to a couple of pals when Russell Martin was coming in. Before Russell Martin was coming in, the next appointment we make with this new board that's came in, and the financial backing that they're quite prepared to put across to us, we need to make sure that this guy has longevity in the club. And we're now 5 games into the season, and we're now all on a podcast going, this guy needs to go. It's just not on at all. Whoever comes in next has to be there, in my opinion, for the long term. It's as simple as that. And if that's an unpopular name like Russell Martin is, but at least he's got a track record in doing the job down south, or doing the job wherever it may well be, and making teams difficult to beat, I'm on board for that. That's fine. I don't know whether that's the fact that the last sort of 12 weeks since Russell Martin's came in, that my standards have dropped so dramatically that I would even take Barry Ferguson back at this moment in time. But we need somebody in that's going to make us difficult to break down, difficult to beat, and we can actually go to Ibrox or turn the telly on to watch an away game, and we can be comfortable and confident that we're going to take some points, because we don't have that feeling just now. I've heard different podcasts about Saturday going, right, I'm confident, I'm happy with this. We were turned over. We were absolutely bullied from start to finish. And that's Russell Martin's not the Rangers manager. He's not fit for purpose. I mean, it's just every single day seems to be like a new episode of Mike Bass, England manager, with Russell Martin at the moment in time. And we need to make this change. And the next change that we need to make needs to be permanent, and it needs to be for a long time.
Couldn't agree more, mate. Ross, have you got any ideas, any names that are on your lips at all?
Not for an interim basis, mate. That wouldn't be the direction I'd be going. I think I actually listened to Sean Dyche the other day on a podcast. It was a show, and he was talking to Gary Neville and a few others. I think it was The Overlap or something like that. And what he spoke about was something that could potentially be amongst this sea of kind of trying to play out from the back and high press. It could be something that would work in Scotland. And I genuinely came away from that thinking this could be the pragmatic approach that we need. I know tomorrow, I think we're going to, on the pod, they're going to be looking at some in more detail at some potential candidates and stuff. So I won't take too much of the time today talking it through. But I think we need someone that's going to allow the quality of our players to actually be seen. Because there's no doubt when these players go away and play, whether that's internationals or where they've been before, they've played well. They've scored goals. They've created chances. And there's no doubt that there is quality. You look at players like Antman that's come in. It's not even starting. When he comes on, he's lost in the game. It just can only be confusion or a sort of overcomplicated style of football. Get the ball up the pitch quickly. Have a very solid defence, win your battles in midfield, keep the ball in their third and commit men forward. You are going to create chances. But, without going too much into the detail of what's going wrong from a tactical basis, we're just so comfortable with possession, so comfortable allowing them to get set. And then we're trying to unpick with sort of diagonal balls into the box that they're just mopping up, and it's one man in the middle. If you want to contain teams, you put them under pressure. You don't contain them by holding onto the ball. It's really basic stuff. It might work in the fancy leagues in Europe that are, they're coming out at you and you're coming out at them, and it's all a bit more sort of playing out, and high pressure really works and unpicks it. In Scotland, it just needs to be practical, and it needs to just be quite simply digging results out at times, which is something that I have no faith in Martin to do. So Sean Dyche would be one that I think would actually be all right. I think it'd be worth getting him until the end of the season. It can't be worse than this, can it? It really can't be worse than this. So I think it'd be worth testing it. I've seen a few people putting things in the comments about the guy from Bodo Glimt and Nuno, who was down at Wolves. But again, they want to play this high press, playing out from the back style football, which, as I mentioned before, is essentially where we're going wrong, in my opinion here. I think we need someone that's got a little bit more about them and is willing to adapt and be pragmatic in their approach to try and get the points on the board, which at the minute, and to be honest, every game is what we need. You need to be flexible, and at the minute, it's just not looking great. So, yeah, I mean, I think Dyche would be a decent manager. I really do. I think he'd be a decent, refreshing manager who would get the ball at the pitch quickly and have high chance creation, which is clearly what we need.
Great, mate. Thank you. Well, listen, you asked the question, how bad can it get? So I had this slide, and I actually forgot about this slide. I meant to bring this up earlier on. So just go around you all just one last time if you can make it quick, please, Andrew. Pick one stat from that quickly.
Sorry,
tell me why you can't believe it's possible, and finish up for me, please, mate. You want me to give you one?
I'm not a big fan of XG, but Jesus Christ, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th joint. Oh God, that's bad, isn't it? Yep.
So we're expected to score the same amount of goals as the likes of Falkirk. Teams that are in the bottom 6 of the league. There. Any final thoughts before you head off, mate?
No, that's it, pal. That is just drab reading. No, it's just not good. It really isn't good. This is no disrespect, but this is Partick Thistle levels.
Yep. Scott, you're doing the extreme close up there from Wayne's World.
Do you
want me to give you one, or can you see them?
It's all right. I've got you now. I agree with what Andrew's saying, but I mean, the thing that kind of sticks out for me is percentage of passes back the way. It's been a kind of bugbear of mine since Russell Martins came in, the fact that we could sort of have the ball in an advanced position up the park, and before you know it, within 3 passes it's back at Jack Butland's feet again. That just kind of sticks out for me. Obviously there's been the shots against us and everything like that. It's grim reading. I could have done without seeing that before my bed, thanks.
And obviously your debut, you're talking about back passes there. There was one that we actually denied a penalty, and I can't remember who it was against. I said it wouldn't matter. We wouldn't have scored the end. We just have passed it back to Jack Butland. So it doesn't matter if we get a penalty kick.
Yeah.
But, listen, you've made your debut tonight. How have you felt? Obviously, a wee bit nervous. Are you doing okay?
A wee bit nervous, but I appreciate you helping me through it. Much appreciated. Thank you.
No problem. Well, listen, we'll get a friend of the show here who you'll be coming aware of this guy. This is the guy your mother warned you about, Curry, and he's already given you an endeared nickname. You're now forever known as Captain Caveman.
That's a change for Gimbly or whatever it's called in my work.
Yep. Listen, he's tongue in cheek. He's a great guy. I'm sure you'll meet him at some point in the night and stuff like that. He's the only kid on, and he's having a laugh with you, mate. He wouldn't take the mickey at you if he didn't like you.
Oh, well, it's good to know.
All right, but thanks for coming on, mate. Ross,
Thanks for having me.
One we start there, just finish us up, pal, please.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, conceded goals 10th. I mean, that is abysmal. You'd understand if we were scored the top amount of goals in the league and we were just playing risky football, but it was paying off and we're scoring 5 and conceding 3. You'd understand it, but it's just dismal. Truly, truly dismal. But I've enjoyed being on with you, gents. So thank you very much for having me on. It's been a good laugh and very therapeutic. So thank you.
No problem at all. Thanks for joining us, guys. Well, listen, guys, we'll get finished up now. That's us hit the hour mark. I'll get my Chucky's chewed if I go over the hour. So thanks for everyone joining us there. And if you haven't, please like and subscribe on YouTube. The guys tomorrow night are going to be talking about potential replacements for the manager. So you all know who I want for it. So if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, we'll be on every single night this week to give you your your nightly therapy session and talk about Rangers. But thanks to everyone that's joined us, everyone that's contributing in the comments as well. And always remember, every night is a Rangers strong night. Thank you.